this cycle that we see people encountering. It's like this spurt of motivation, which leads them into some form of intensity, like, yeah, let's go, I'm going to throw myself into training. And eventually that leads to burnout. And then there's stagnation and they don't do anything for a while. And then they get another spurt of motivation, which leads to further intensity and then more burnout and then more stagnation. So it's about breaking this cycle or changing the approach that we take. Motivation is great, but motivation alone is not going to be the thing that continues to move you forward. By watching motivational videos, or this is motivating you. Let this motivate you in a way where you don't bomb burst out the door and grab your gym kit and get in there and start hammering at training and slaughtering yourself. That's not what we want you to do. Welcome to the Obstacle Dominator podcast, the show for athletes who want to become their best and inspire others in the process. Here we're going to dive deep into training tactics, race strategy, nutrition, mindset, and everything required to dominate the course and your life. Whether you're tackling your first race or already standing on podiums, this is where you can level up. There is always room for improvement, and it is time to push through those barriers and step it up a level, breaking both the physical and the mental walls to keep progressing. I'm your host, Matt Roberts, OCR athlete, coach, and guide to those committed to becoming healthier, happier, stronger, faster, to maximize their human potential now and always. I'll also be joined by the coaching team who are walking the walk, competing, staying current, and holding themselves to excellence. They are leading by example to inspire others to rise. We also bring on guest speakers who share real stories, real lessons, and proven methods that deliver results in performance, health, and mindset. Let us begin. Yo, what's happening, Mitch?
What's happening, Matt? How are things?
Good, man. Good. I'm still a little bit tender after the week's training, actually. But yeah, taking some extra rest and recovery and reset and go again tomorrow. How are you feeling?
Nice. I'm feeling pretty good, to be fair. Feeling pretty good. The rest day yesterday was nice. That always makes a difference after the long run and OCR training day. But I'm feeling really good at the moment. Woke up feeling fresh, ready to get after it this week. So
good stuff. And this is going to be what we're going to have the conversation around as well, because we had some conversations on our long run on Saturday and really thinking bigger picture about the people that we train with and really the advice that we give to the wider community as well when it comes to our training, and really a lot about being specific and accurate with our training, but also having the discipline not to do certain things within the training week or certain actions within a training session. So going a lot by feel, not just the overall structure of the training program. So yeah, we're going to talk a lot about discipline, and I wrote a post actually this morning about like optimization, and a lot of the times I feel like it takes more discipline to not do something within the training program than it does to do something within the training program. Say, for instance, like in a strength training session, you're all hyped up and you're feeling good, you're warmed up, you're performing well, and you're like, yeah, all right, let's just squeeze one more set in. But because we feel good, we can do that. But the question is like, is that actually going to be beneficial? How am I going to feel at the end of this session? How am I going to feel for the next 2 to 3 days just by squeezing something in? So it's a case of having the discipline to not do things and understanding implications of doing too much. And I'll give an example from my last training week. So first week of a new training cycle, some additional things like added in, just like 1 or 2 small things. And then also variations in footwear, and then also a little bit of a change to where I put certain sessions as well. So already, without actually layering on more volume, more intensity, actually that was done through different sets of footwear, and through the strength training session as well. So I'll touch on all those sort of things. But another theme to this is with our training groups, like we're never saying do more. And in fact, in one case as well, we tell people to drop back or stick to their own pace. So it's really giving people that permission slip to optimize themselves rather than getting caught up in the group on what they're really doing. You got anything you want to add on that?
Yeah, it is an interesting one because we may feel really good throughout a session and then we creep in. I did it a couple of weeks ago on the running track where I ran harder on the 800-meter efforts, pushing towards VO2 max instead of sticking at threshold, and that then impacted recovery later on down the line, and I should have held back, which is a lesson learned. So it's definitely looking at exactly one, when you are feeling good, that doesn't mean do more and push more, because the more the input you put into the training, there's going to be an output, and that output is going to be recovery as well, and there needs to be a balance. So if you take a race, for example, if even a 5k race, like the intensity your body is going to be working at, you're going to need at least 24 to 48 hours to recover, and it's going to be your nervous system that takes longer to recover than your muscles as well. So that's the first thing. And then the second thing is obviously coming to ego, like looking at your ego. Can you push that aside? And I think that's where people do struggle, because their ego takes over. Right, let's do more. Right, I want to set a new PB on one of the Strava segments, or right, I just want to lift that extra 5 kilos with a back squat or a deadlift. But is that actually benefiting you, or is it going to impact for future sessions in your recovery? You on mute there, Matt.
Yeah, it's unlearning what going hard really means, and anyone can really go hard in training, but it's also learning actually what discipline actually is in these moments. And that's really important, and we see it with a lot of military, ex-military, just generally athletes, to be perfectly honest, where we've got this push, 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 endure, suffer mentality, where we try and squeeze in a little bit more, and if we aren't doing that, we seemingly feel weak or like we're failing or regressing if we don't do that. And here's a really interesting thought as well, and this is what I shared with one of the guys earlier. I was like, basically, when it comes to our overall progress and continuing to move forward with our own training, but moving forward up the competitive field, the people that are at the dizzy heights of elite performance at the moment, there's they have to apply the same methods and have to be more granular and have to be more tactical and actually need the overall structure more as well, because they're at that dizzy height and they can still progress to a certain extent if they further optimize. And this is the thing. So if you're somebody that's like an age group athlete that wants to step up to elite level, or you're an open heat category racer that wants to step up to age group, you've got to focus on self, because if you look at the people above you and feel like the leap is too big to jump up to that, well, firstly, an immediate performance enhancer is to enter that category anyway. You're going to get more out of yourself purely by being surrounded by higher level competitors. So try and work through that limiting belief. It's actually an immediate performance enhancer, and that will level you up. But then, secondly, if you heed the advice that we share, actually you will close that gap a lot quicker, because often these guys are doing more, 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 and not applying the right training in the right dose at the right time and balancing that with rest and recovery. I frequently see it where athletes are traveling all over the world and squeezing another race here, here, and here. You wonder why they don't progress as much as they could do. they actually stall their progress by doing more. So we're not telling you to do less, we're telling you to account for all these different components and optimize. So if someone's way up here and they're not progressing anymore, they've reached the height. Unless they come up with new strategies, new tactics, more discipline to apply and optimize their training. And often that could look like more recovery. So actually, those that are wise and use knowledge and take time and have the discipline and are consistent with a simplistic approach, they will close that gap. So if you think the leap is too big, take the leap and optimize and watch that gap close rapidly. And we're seeing it with our own training already within 3 to 4 months of a consistent approach off the back of doing West Virginia last year. So really, it's learning to have discipline and trust in the process. And ultimately, when it comes to training, we only get the fitness gains from what we adapt from, what we recover from. So if you're constantly putting an input in, and with that training stimulus, there's not enough of an input of rest and recovery, you're not going to fully adapt. And that's where I stand today on a Monday. I'm meant to be going into week 2 of my training group and doing a threshold session, but I know my body is not tip top. It doesn't need to be 100%, but I know actually it's going to benefit me more to have an additional 24 hours recovery. But what I'm not doing with my training is condensing the rest of my week into a shorter period of time. Actually, I've dropped a session completely off. And actually, the most costly session that I don't necessarily need as well is more there for like maintenance and injury prevention. So it's having the discipline and the trust to do that. And yet again, I think bigger picture rather than just this week, just this training block. I think about this from the next 3 months, 6 months, year, 2 years, 3 years. Because the thing is, if I continue to load my system and there's not enough recovery, that's not beneficial for my health. It's not beneficial for my body. And that's certainly not going to continue or allow me to continue over the long term and reap the rewards that I'm looking to achieve through my training. If anything, it's taken away from that.
I mean, let's look at what we're told, especially from a young age as well. Like, more is better. You've got to be constantly pushing yourself. But if you're constantly pushing yourself, how are you tapping into different energy systems that are needed to be maximized, to be trained specifically? Like, if you look at zone 2 and zone 4, you're looking at aerobic base building compared to lactate threshold. Two completely different energy systems need to be used. Two completely different zones are being trained right there. So if you're constantly pushing in zone 4 all the time, yes, you're going to progress in some way, shape, or form. But in the long term, you're not going to maximize the engine, especially say if you're going for ultra endurance events, because as we know, zone 2 is what builds the engine. But that's a topic for another time. But I think a lot of people are afraid you are right, in the sense of people are looked down upon when they're doing less. They think, oh, you can't handle the session, or you can't handle the speed. And that's exactly where the ego kicks in. And I put a quote out to our team a couple of weeks ago, and it was something about the ego. If you run, or if you lead with your ego, success does not follow. So if you are leading your life with your ego, if you are leading your training with your ego, success is not going to follow in the long term. Now, it's good to have that little bit of ego, that little bit of competition from time to time, because it is healthy to have that little bit of competition. But if you are constantly ego driven all the time, success isn't going to follow over the long term. And this is coming from experience. I was ego driven for like the first couple of years within the sport. And then it shifted massively. And it was a case of, right, something has to change because it wasn't healthy. It was having quite a negative impact on me mentally. And it was impacting others around me as well. So I wanted to, and that was the key thing. Like, if it's impacting me, imagine what that's doing to everyone else when you are having that ego. And when you reflect on it, you ask yourself, okay, what can I do differently? Right, let's be smart about the training. Like, let's stick to the structure. But let's also not give a fuck what people think about what you're doing with your training as well. And this is one thing that I'm still learning, is to not care what people think with your training. Okay? Because some people are never going to understand why you're training the way that you do. Some people aren't going to understand that you're not maxing out reps and maxing out weights on every machine in the gym for the fun of it, because it's not going to benefit your training. Like, that is egotistical driven. And if you want to perform and level up within the OCR scene, whether that's starting off with an open wave, going to age group, or age group to elite, what you need to do is you need to train the specific components. And there is a lot of components that are in OCR. It's not just train one thing, you have to train a lot. So what you need to do there is find that balance. And if that sometimes means dropping off a session like Matt is doing this week, so that his body can recover, so that you can maximize other sessions, then so be it. It doesn't mean you're weak. It doesn't mean you're failing. If anything, you're actually being smarter and becoming more in tune with your body. And this is something that I say to the guys that work with me a lot at the moment, is tune into your body. A lot of people are not in tune with their body. They think they are until it comes to little things, and they're not in tune. If you become more in tune, you'll go a lot further as well. But that's where leaving the ego at the door comes in hand.
Mm, yeah, for sure. There's a lot to it, but it can really be straightforward. And a lot of it comes down to, well, self-awareness. Like, how am I actually feeling right now? Yeah, how does my body feel? How is my overall energy? Yeah, am I productive within my day-to-day life? Am I feeling at peace, rested? Am I feeling stressed? How's that showing up in my work, my relationships? There'll be a lot to be said for it. And a negative to training could be you're actually using that as a coping mechanism, yeah, to seemingly feel good, or to take a break, or to have an outlet. And that's not a healthy approach. We should be doing it to fill ourselves up. So two versions, two pathways I could go down. I could be completely driven by the training program this week and be like, well, I can train today, therefore I should. But on the flip side of that, and the other path that I could walk down, is actually self-care, which is going to feed into my performance over the long term, not the immediate return on investment. So I could seemingly think, but by doing the training program today, actually it's going to be beneficial for me. But actually, it's not. The best shot is to have restraint and apply discipline. And this is what we are constantly doing as individuals, and this is the education that we impart on our team members, and it's how we structure our programming. Yeah, it's not just the balance between all the different components of training. It's like, what are we doing day to day? But then ultimately, the responsibility and ownership is on the individual to, like, really heed that advice. And yet again, like, what we see in ourselves and other people is this process of unlearning, of trial and error. Like, we can say, hey, don't do this and do this instead, or optimize here, but it's down for the individual to take that advice on board and action it. And I'd say the majority of the time, we don't. We don't take the advice that our body's given us. We don't take the advice that someone is suggesting for us, because we have all these fears, concerns, the ego, and we ultimately don't have trust in the process. Therefore, we do the thing, reinforce failure often, end up getting a niggle or an injury or having to take additional time off. And that's not going to keep us moving forward in the long term. And that's what we should be looking at, it is in the long term. So yeah, I mean, if you want additional support in balancing and structuring, I mean, 2 pathways, like join the OCR school, which is a free group. Go in there, get further education, put in almost daily posts in there about educational stuff, kind of put the glimpses on social media and the full pictures over on the OCR school. And if you join that, you've also got the option to have a race review audit as well, which we can dive deeper on training and your race plan and structure as well. So really it's about overall optimization. That is the key. And that comes through education, trust, discipline, and implementation, and holding self accountable so that we can learn and accelerate our progress in the quickest amount of time. But that's not like, oh, in the next 6 weeks, you're going to change your life and everything's going to be all humding and working really well. Like, we're 6 years into this and we're still rapidly learning. Like, every single year we learn more and more new strategies, new tactics, new education, further education, implementing things, finding that certain things no longer work, or there's new science on this, and then we trial it and we see whether it works or not. But as we see, for the majority of people, like, this approach works for the majority. And why? Because it's all encompassing, it's dynamic, it's hitting all the energy systems, it's hitting all of the movements within like gait for the human body, but then also the different planes of movement as well. So yeah, it's a longevity plan, but also that gets you ready for performing at the same time. So yeah, further education. Something that come up there as well, this is a quote, was actually journaling this morning. It's pretty deep and powerful. So I'll add that into the show notes as well, because this could be something for people to ponder on as well. But when a process is working, it asks more of an individual. It asks for more clarity, ownership, consistency, and sometimes stepping back isn't a rejection of the process, but a pause before something new is ready to fully step in. Okay, and I'm experiencing this with my own training right now, because I'm not doing more in this training block. This training block is a repeat of the previous training block. I've not incorporated anything new in. Yeah, there might be slight progressions in terms of like the strength work, just because I've refined it. Might be like, for instance, on my squat, there's an extra rep. Yeah, on my carry, I'm carrying for a few extra seconds. My dead hang's a little bit longer. That's it. But the overall conditioning work is exactly the same. And what I'm naturally seeing is progress in there. Not that I'm striving to go a little bit faster on some of my runs. But an example of that, when we done our long run this weekend, we done that route 2 weeks ago, and we added an extra couple of 100 meters within a 90-minute long run. Same pace, same route, relatively same conditions, and we added 200 meters on. So that's like visibly seeing and feeling the progress in action without actually adding anything on. And this is where the programming can go wrong. It's like, okay, well, you were here 3 months ago, therefore, like, you need to increase this much because this is the end goal. And then we just keep creeping and creeping and creeping and creeping. But for most cases, like I'm seeing, a reason why I'm taking time off today is to give time and space for more adaptation. Like, that's the progress, adapting to the training stimulus. And we see people go wrong where they want too much variety, too much change, oh, I'm getting bored of this and whatever else. And it's like, that's great. You're never really going to know how much progress you're making on a day-to-day, week-to-week, month-to-month, unless you have program assessments, which are also very, very important. So, yeah, sometimes a pause before something new comes in is the absolute key to success. And this is why everything needs to be logged, tracked, and be accounted for. Because if there's variables, you like we say to our guys, like what you track will improve. Because if there isn't anything being tracked, you don't know where you were last week, the week before, a month ago, a year ago. So that's why the data is important. But the data is not always something that gets read into on a day-to-day basis. It's almost like a paper trail. And something we've been really working on is RPE as well, isn't it, for a lot of the training sessions at the moment, not just looking at heart rate or power zones or distance gained or whatever. Mm. Mm. Yeah, lots of gold there. Um, and some shares I've got on this as well. Um, Well, the first thing is like if you want to see our RPE scale, that relates to the energy systems that we are training and that we should all be following and training, then you can find that resource in the OCR scores as well. All right, so it's basically a 1 to 10 scoreboard, and each one of those points relates to a different energy system that we should be training. And the benefit of this is if you're running on the trails or the treadmill and your heart rate data or the pacing is not corresponding for whatever reason, there's lots of different variables, then you can go back to the default of how am I feeling? All right, and this relates to racing as well, because pacing goes out the window. Yeah, heart rate often goes out the window. It's not a good metric to measure, but what serves us is having that rate of perceived exertion, so assessing like how exerted am I right now, and the sustainability of that particular exertion for the period of time that you're going to be going for and whereabouts in that race or training session you are. Okay, and that corresponds to the energy systems at work. An example of this as well as VO2 max work. So we've been doing VO2 max sessions on the track, and it was also well, I can use examples, and this is for our guys, and we say it to them. It's like if you feel really good on like a lactate threshold training session, and we've got you doing some intervals at the end, and then you decide to go harder than that, you turn your lactate threshold session into a VO2 max session. And then if you have a VO2 max session that week as well, you're doing more than you need, you're overreaching. And not only that, you're training the wrong energy system. So it's important to be diligent rather than going, oh, I felt really good on that, so I thought I'd do an extra rep, or I thought I'd just up the ante a little bit more. Okay, well done, you just blew your session. And then the carryover is how does that affect tomorrow and the next day and the next day? Okay, so it's all really, really important that we're taking this into account. Yeah, being analytical, because more in one session often corresponds to less in that week. Whereas if we optimize the day, we stay in the game week in, week out, and over the long term. Okay, and that's the way that we view it. Anyone can crush themselves in a workout. That's all we did when we was in the military, just endured. Yeah, just suffered, lived in discomfort. So we know we can deal with it. But is that healthy? No. Is that the way I want to live my life? No. So yeah, it's a case of if we want to continue to feel good, have energy, look the part, feel vibrant, and be healthy over the long term, then this sport really, really offers it. And also the how dynamic it is and how all encompassing it can be if we do things correctly. And like we've mentioned on previous episodes, some people are doing far too much strength, some people are neglecting the strength, some people aren't even touching vital energy systems that would really elevate their performance. So yeah, be open-minded. And something that I just took a note on as well, like when I am sitting and being a student and listening, either that's being in a different group of people that I'm learning, a new educational resource, a course, a program, or anything that I'm in, I sit and I listen. And that's absolutely key. And I have curiosity. It's like, okay, what is this trying to show me? What is this trying to teach me? What does this person possibly know that I don't know, that if I implement it, this can assist me? And sometimes the biggest thing for me, and being perfectly honest, if they don't look the part and they're trying to impart a bit of knowledge, that can be very, very difficult for me to take on board as advice, because we're all about like embodiment, but it doesn't necessarily mean that the value they share is unimportant. But what we want to kind of see is people embodying that and implying that themselves. So we've just got to keep open-minded to all the different perspectives and possibilities from different people's education, knowledge, experience, to make sure that we can make the best decisions for ourselves. And that's absolutely essential. Right? If we focus on self and we elevate ourselves to success, like we've had conversations as well, the ultimate goal is to not only be the best that we can be, but it's also to inspire other people so that they can be the best that they can be. And if anything we share comes across as critical, it comes from a place of love, and it's because we're passionate about health and humans like performing in every way, shape, or form. And it's our right as human beings to be the best that we can. And if we're not, let's do something about it. And there's always solutions. So it's being solution orientated rather than seeing an obstacle and then just turning around and going the opposite way. Like see that obstacle as a challenge. Like how do I go over it? How do I go through it? How do I go around it? Yeah, how can I overcome this situation to improve myself? Mm. Yeah, some powerful stuff, and to really ground this in, it's a lot easier than it seems to elevate ourselves, and really it comes from a simplistic approach. And going off the back of what Mitch was saying, is this cycle that we see people encountering. It's like this spurt of motivation, which leads them into some form of intensity, like, yeah, let's go, I'm going to throw myself into training, and eventually that leads to burnout. And then there's stagnation, and they don't do anything for a while. And then they get another spurt of motivation, which leads to further intensity, and then more burnout, and then more stagnation. Um, so it's about breaking this cycle or changing the approach that we take. Motivation is great, but motivation alone is not going to be the thing that continues you to move you forward. All right, whether we're watching motivational videos or this is motivating you, let this motivate you in a way where you don't bomb burst out the door and grab your gym kit and get in there and start hammering at training and slaughtering yourself. That's not what we want you to do. Yeah, it's about looking at the areas of life that need addressing first, because it's all good and well having this all singing, all dancing training program, but if actually you're working really long days, you're incredibly stressed, you aren't getting to bed on time, you've got a newborn, there's lots of complexity, and each person is very different in what they are going through and living at the moment. But this is the first place to look at, is like, what is out of whack within my day-to-day life that is taking my time, that is taking my energy. And on the flip side of this as well, that change might be alone. But if we look at another perspective as well, it's like, out of everything that I can do for myself right now, what is going to be the big pillar that if we knock this down, it's going to cause a domino effect, which is going to positively impact another aspect of life, another aspect of life, and so on and so forth. So it can be what we don't do as well as what we do. But basically, what I'm saying is, what people tend to do with this spurt of motivation is try and do everything all at once, but it doesn't last. So it's evaluating the situation and identifying what needs to be done next. And this is what we do with our coaching, with our programs. Identify where they're at, identify where they want to go, and then how do we bridge that gap in the most realistic and sustainable way. But unfortunately, in the fitness industry, not really the fitness industry, the people that look in at the fitness industry and influencers, it's like, well, jump on my 4 week or 6 week program, or 12 weeks, you're going to be here. It's like, great, you could. But what happens beyond that? You've made some changes, but have you created habits? Have you formulated them? Have you integrated them in? Are aspects of them becoming automated and part of your identity? If not, the wheels will fall off at some point. So it's like, go slow, build the momentum, you'll start to gather pace, and ultimately you'll go further and faster than you've ever gone before. So we're not telling you to slow down or stop. We're just saying probably what's worked or not working for you right now is the approach that you're taking. And I mean, I saw it a couple of weeks ago. It is comical, but also at the same time, it's sad when I walk into the gym at New Year's, where every treadmill's full, every cardio machine, every squat rack's full, and everyone is fucking slaughtering themselves. And I'm like, dude, like, I won't see you in here next week because you've already killed yourself. And it's sad to see. So what we do needs to be done in a progressive and sustainable way, and really beginning with the end in mind and letting that formulate the process. And going back into my own training, I'm doing the same thing week in, week out, with not a lot of changes, if any at all, over the past 12 weeks. I'm now into week 15, I believe. I've still got about another month until I do my race. So yeah, I will be like releasing more details on the program. It's something we've actually implemented to our basic plan, is this approach, and basically it's going to be, if you want to get your 5K down, then this is the training program to do that. But as we've seen, and as we will see, that will translate over to half marathon distances as well, and Spartan races. So we're excited to release that in the next month, and also you'll get to see my live results actually in action from that, because I hadn't done any training prior to West Virginia. West Virginia was my first race of 2025, and then really I've only just been into training for a few months beyond that. So it's going to be good to see what we can achieve and will achieve with the right optimization. So the right things at the right time in the right place. But yet again, it doesn't mean about executing perfectly, because here I am taking an additional rest day. So what does that mean? Well, something in my previous week of training was too much. Okay. Because if actually I optimized that in the best possible way, then actually I wouldn't need extra recovery. It would have been all accounted for. But the thing is, it's like, it can be slight things like, did I do an extra 2 reps too much that led to soreness? Yeah. Did I do my sprints in minimalist footwear? Yes. Should I have done that? No. Yeah. There's just like these little things that seemingly seem small, but if you have 2 or 3 of those things, that can tip the balance. And the simple thing was as well, actually, another variable was from not the week previous, but 2 weeks ago, I'd actually ran about 5K more last week than I had on those previous weeks. And that was because of, one, the sprints that I'd done, and two, the strides that I'd done. And then also the conditions that I actually ran on as well gave me different data, and therefore different impact as well. So last week I'd done more on the track. The weeks previous I'd done more on the treadmill. So even surface can have a difference, not only what we're doing within the training sessions and that week of training, what footwear are we wearing, what surface are we landing on. Okay, so this is the stuff that I analyze within my own training, and I know where I've gone wrong, and it's like, okay, well, lesson learned. Yeah, I'm doing all of this and covering all these angles, but there's still little things to optimize. Am I carrying those same teachings or same things into this week as last week? No, I see them as teachings. The lesson is learned, so I further optimize them. Boom. And this is what it's about. People think that when you do training or embark on a training program, that it's this perfect thing. This person's going to give me all the answers of everything that I need. No, that's down for the individual to show up and be curious and ask questions, and always endeavoring with the coach and with the program to optimize that further and further and further, piece by piece. And it was over last week or the week before, 2 of the guys that had been with us for 3 years. And I was like, guys, it's amazing that you're still like showing up on these group calls. You're still learning 3-4 years down the line. And that speaks volumes. Like, we as coaches are learning, the people that are on our team are still learning. So I share this because if you're somebody that likes to flit around and jump from program to program, or go, oh, I've done this approach and that didn't work, so I've changed this, and I'm going to do it myself now, I'm going to watch this YouTube video. Too much variety, too much change, not enough consistency, and that will stall progress, or at least slow progress down. So everything we're saying is easy because we take an educated approach. We continue to be educated. We apply simplicity. We constantly optimize, and we do now what we're preparing for in the long term. But we're also flexible and adaptable to change. So, yeah, that's it. We test, we adjust. We test, we adjust. And like I said before as well, it's not always about what we do, it's about what we don't do. And that takes far greater discipline in today's world than it does to do that next thing or take that next action. Okay. So think before you act, but the actions you take need to be making sure that you are placing yourself, your needs, your health, your energy, and ultimately your performance goals to the highest degree. Anything else to add? Mm, mm, for sure. That's it. So, yeah, if there's any questions or need any more clarity on anything, anyone that's listened, then yeah, feel free to leave a comment, reach out. There'll be a link below to the OCR school where there's other educational content and also access to the race review audit. Obviously, you can take you can take that opportunity to hop on a call with myself. Yeah, we'll just evaluate things, and we've done it for a guy last week as well, and it's super beneficial for him. So why not? Why not optimize what you're already doing? And this is the thing: like we're already training. Why not do it the way that it's meant to be done? We already eat food. Why not make sure that that lowers your waistline, increases your muscle mass, makes you have the energy that you need? Yeah, makes you healthy over the long term. We already sleep. Let's sleep better. And there's a lot to actually learn on that, and that's a huge performance enhancer. So really, this is just about optimization. Okay, we're doing a lot of the things. It's not about doing more. It's about what we do, when we do it, how we do it, so that we can ensure our success today and continue to level up. All right. Awesome. Good chat. Hope you guys took some value. We are very direct, as you could gather. And some people don't like it, but hey ho, you want hard truths, or do you want us to beat around the bush? Like, I'm not into the game of messing around. Let's take action. Mm, yeah, yeah. So, yeah, if you want to come to the School of Hard Truths, then welcome on board. But equally with this as well, yeah, there you go. That's it. It's not meant to be. Yeah, but it can be. Yeah, it can come across as quite confrontational. But yeah, it's again finding balance between those approaches. We see very clearly and very deeply where people go wrong. It's about bringing that into our self-awareness so that we can do something about it. But if you don't want to hear it, it's also fine as well. But what we share is through lived experience and through working with a lot of people over the years now. So um, yeah, there's a lot of patterns that can be ironed out and improved on. All right. We'll have a good session, and I'll see you for the next episode. See you later. That is it for today's episode of the Obstacle Dominator podcast. Thank you for listening. If you've gained value from this episode or any others, all we simply ask is you share that with one other person. This one simple share could be the breakthrough that they need to get unstuck and start making progress again, and support more athletes to become healthier, happier, stronger, and faster human beings. If you feel called, please leave a review, tap the stars, give us a rating, head over to YouTube and subscribe, or just simply follow the show. These simple action steps go such a long way in helping us reach more athletes over time, and we'd love for you to be part of that. Proximity is power. If you are an athlete that's ready to take your performance up a level, then join us over on the OCR School. This is a community where you can surround yourself with the right people as you learn and as you rise. Learn from athletes who are not just talking the talk, but walking the walk, getting results, body and mind, everyone from first-time finishers to podium winners and champions. Until next time, keep training hard, keep living prepared, keep dominating the obstacles in life and in competition.